WWE has been the biggest wrestling company in the world for over 30 years, and rightly or wrongly, the feeling is that if you make it in WWE, then you've truly made it as a wrestler. A good run in WWE could set you for life, whether staying with the Fed and earning bucket loads of cash, or using your WWE fame to maintain a successful run elsewhere. Having that WWE seal of approval next to your name can work wonders. Alas, for all the exposure and fame that comes with a big WWE run, sometimes there's only so far you can go within the system, and many wrestlers have found greater success away from Titan Towers. Whether these are kayfabe accomplishments like prestigious title runs and memorable storylines, or being positioned as a more prominent cog within the machine, there are many examples of wrestlers having far greater success away from Vince McMahon and his endless supply of brass rings, including some high-profile WWE legends. But how do you define a WWE legend? For the purposes of this video, we're saying it's a wrestler that when you think of them, the first thing you're likely to think of is their WWE run. So there will be no Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, because face it, they're really more synonymous with WCW. Same for Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes, whilst the likes of Bubba Ray Dudley and RVD are ECW legends first and foremost. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are 10 WWE legends who had greater success elsewhere. Join us! Number 10, Matt Hardy. A pioneer in WWE's tag division in the Attitude Era, Matt Hardy's legend is all but cemented, and alongside brother Jeff is a first ballot future WWE Hall of Famer. Across several runs in WWE, Matt picked up pretty much every title and accolade on offer, but the closest he got to a world title run was with WWE's bronze medal, the ECW title. Matt Hardy in Impact was a different story though. Far from being the lesser Hardy, Matt was allowed the freedom to forge his own path. He reigned atop Impact twice as World Heavyweight Champion, his second run seeing Hardy turn into the villainous Big Money Matt. And of course, there's the Broken Universe. Matt was given carte blanche to basically do whatever he pleased, aided by several of Impact's best minds such as Jeremy Borash. We all know the score now: drones, dilapidated boats, fireworks fights, and the tireless work of Senor Benjamin, of course. This all occurred because Impact trusted Matt with creative freedom, and off to the races they went. In a time when Impact was in a state of flux, Matt Hardy made them the talk of the wrestling world, for better or worse in some fans' eyes, and when he returned to WWE's welcoming arms, all we really wanted to see was Matt cackling wide-eyed and threatening to delete everything that moved. Number 9, Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow is arguably one of the biggest wastes of talents in WWE history. With a unique look, imposing aura, and a surprising amount of agility for a man of his size, the Beast from the East was hyped up beyond all recognition from day one, being profiled in Sports Illustrated while still a rookie. But across 2 spells in WWE, Bam Bam's biggest achievement was headlining WrestleMania 11, where he lost to NFL star Lawrence Taylor. Whilst headlining Mania is a rare feat, the loss did hurt Bam Bam's stock, and when he turned up in ECW in 1996, the ruthless Philly crowd mocked Bam Bam because of the fact that he did the JOB to LT. However, it didn't take long until they changed their tune. Bigelow was positioned as one of ECW's biggest heels as part of Shane Douglas's triple threat, memorably warring with Taz, throwing Spike Dudley into Rosette, and reigning as ECW heavyweight champion. But before all of this, there was Bam Bam in Japan, where both New Japan and All Japan treated him like a star. He battled Vader for the IWGP title in New Japan and also tagged with him, destroying Keiji Muto and Hiroshi Hase for the IWGP tag titles as the appropriately named Big Bad and Dangerous. Yet, in WWE, he feuded with Doink and Dink. Number 8, Greg Valentine. Greg Valentine is one of the greatest, fiercest, if not most underrated Intercontinental Champions in WWE history. A linchpin of the mid-card as the rock and wrestling era took flight, Valentine also had a run with the tag titles, teaming with a young but still disgraceful Brutus Beefcake as the Dream Team. But for all of the Hammer's accomplishments during the WWE's first boom period, this was not the hottest point of his career. For that, you have to look at Jim Crockett's Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. In Mid-Atlantic, Valentine was a promising up-and-coming heel, tagging with Ric Flair and winning the NWA tag titles on 2 occasions. Soon, the team ran afoul of Chief Wahoo McDaniel, and Valentine and Wahoo engaged in one of the greatest feuds in Mid-Atlantic history. Valentine famously broke McDaniel's leg and defeated him for the NWA Mid-Atlantic title before wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with "I broke Wahoo's leg" and becoming one of the biggest heels in the territory. A second stint in Mid-Atlantic saw Valentine turn his back on Flair as the two warred over the NWA US title, with Valentine brutally breaking Flair's nose and later beating Nate for the strap in Charlotte of all places. Number 7, Kerry Von Erich. The modern-day warrior Kerry Von Erich is probably best known to modern viewers for his work as the Texas Tornado. Although only part of WWE for a little over 2 years, Tornado was pushed heavily, at least initially, defeating Mr. Perfect for the IC title after only 2 months with the company. Von Erich's greatest successes, though, came in the NWA, being one of the stars of the highly influential WCCW with his brothers, the Von Erichs, where Kerry, David, and Kevin famously battled the Fabulous Freebirds and others in sellout arenas across Texas. Although the Von Erich Freebirds War was the most famous chapter of Kerry's career, his greatest moment came in solo action, when the 24-year-old defeated NWA World's Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair in front of 45,000 spectators at the Texas Stadium. Granted, Kerry only held the title for a cup of coffee and dropped it back to the Nature Boy 18 days later, but to be part of the mid-80s NWA World title lineage alongside Flair, Race, and Rhodes is a rarefied air. Kerry's lack of WWE success, and in the end his tragic downfall, was in large part due to his physical limitations due to his amputated foot, as well as his substance abuse issues. Number 6, Ricky Steamboat. As one of the most celebrated stars of the 1980s, Ricky Steamboat's legacy was cemented when he defeated Macho Man Randy Savage for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania 3, in a match still lauded by many as one of the greatest of all time. But after winning the IC strap, Steamboat's WWE career went south. After taking time off to witness the birth of his first child, Steamboat was de-pushed by WWE, so Big Rick said sod this and went back to the NWA. Steamboat was treated as a returning hero when he rejoined the company in January 1989, and 1 month later lifted Big Goldie after defeating Ric Flair. This kicked off an incredible trilogy of contests between Steamboat and Flair, lauded as some of the greatest wrestling matches, well, ever. During his time as NWA champion, Steamboat even defended against Misawa in All Japan Pro Wrestling, whilst the All Japan ace was wrestling as Tiger Mask 2. Soon he was back in WWE and wrestled as the Fire-Breathing Dragon. Steamboat then said sod this again and went back to WCW, where he won the tag titles, TV title, and US title before retiring in 1994. Number 5, Rick Martel. With his bright pink tights, brash attitude, and cologne spray bottle arrogance, the model Rick Martel was an easily detestable mid-carder in the early 90s, memorably feuding with the likes of Jake Roberts and Shawn Michaels. However, before his singles run as the model, Martel was an accomplished tag wrestler in WWE, winning gold with Tony Gurria in the early 80s, and defeating the Hart Foundation for the straps with Tito Santana as the popular Strikeforce in 87. Between these tag runs though, Martel was the top face of the AWA. Heavily pushed as the future of the company by Vern Gagne after Hulk Hogan slipped through his fingers, Martel reigned as AWA World Heavyweight Champion for nearly 600 days from May 1984 to December 1985, the longest AWA World title reign of the 80s. As champion, Martel fought the likes of Nick Bockwinkel, Harley Race, NWA World Champion Ric Flair, and Michael P.S. Hayes before dropping the title to Stan Hansen. Whilst his model run was fantastic, it must have been disappointing to go from the face of a company to just another good hand in the locker room. After bumbling about in WWE, a rejuvenated Martel turned up in WCW in '98, won the TV title, and retired a few months later. Number 4, Curt Hennig. Mr. Perfect Curt Hennig is often regarded as one of the finest wrestlers to have never been world champion. That is, if you're strictly talking about the WWE World Championship though. Before he became the brash 2-time Intercontinental Champion, Hennig was putting on clinics week after week in the AWA, with the Ailing Company putting all of their hopes into Hennig and hoping the 20-something sensation would bring the AWA back from the brink and return it to prominence. Indeed, Curt wound up as the AWA World Champion in 1985, 1997, defeating 4-time champ Nick Bockwinkel for the strap at Super Clash 2. Despite Super Clash 2's attendance being a paltry 2,800 compared to Super Clash 1's 20,000 plus gate, there was renewed optimism in the Federation, with the newly heel HENNIG lording it over the AWA as champ for the next 373 days. However, like many before and after him, HENNIG was swayed by WWE's money and unparalleled exposure, and his leaving alongside the Rockers heralded the AWA's imminent doom. HENNIG would later join WCW, first as a perfect addition to the Four Horsemen, then as a prominent member of the NWO, and later as the leader of the anti-rap West Texas Rednecks, winning the US title and tag titles during his 3-year run. Number 3, Rick Rude. In his pomp, Rick Rude was one of WWE's greatest heels. A focal point of the Heenan family, Rude had heated feuds with the likes of Jake Roberts and the Ultimate Warrior, besting the latter for the IC strap at WrestleMania 5. This would be the only title Rude would hold in WWE, and after a dispute with Vince McMahon, Rude left the Fed and ended up in WCW in 1991. In WCW, Rude was pushed as a major threat, feuding with fan favorite Sting as the main force of the Dangerous Alliance. Rude's time with the Dangerous Alliance saw him take part in one of the greatest War Games matches of all time at WrestleWar 92, and saw him reign as US champion for 14 months, the second longest reign in title history. But Rude had greater ambitions and wound up feuding with world champion Ric Flair, defeating the Nature Boy for the big gold belt at Fall Brawl 1993. Rude would trade the title with Hiroshi Hase in Japan and would later feud with old nemesis Sting over the strap before retiring in 1994. The only blemish on Rude's time as champ is that the title wasn't officially sanctioned. WCW had split from the NWA with Big Goldie still in their possession, but they already had the WCW World title, so Big Goldie was crowned the International World Heavyweight title instead. Regardless, just look at Rude with the strap, the absolutely ravishing bastard. Number 2, Kurt Angle. A 6-time world champion in WWE, Kurt Angle is rightly regarded as one of the finest wrestlers to ever step foot in a WWE ring. A best bout machine in his day, Angle won pretty much every accolade on offer in WWE in his 8-year in-ring run. But for all that he's a WWE legend, Angle actually spent the majority of his career in TNA, where Dixie Carter & Co. rightfully built the promotion around him. Angle was a once-in-a-generation talent, and TNA knew it. They put every title in the men's division on him at some point or another, and used his incredible skills to help get other talents over. When TNA entered into a working agreement with New Japan Pro Wrestling, Angle made his way there too, and was rightly treated like a megastar. Before long, TNA champion Angle defeated IWGP heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar for the gold, and made Kenny Omega's belt collection look almost pathetic by comparison. Angle then beat some of New Japan's very best before dropping the belt to Shinsuke Nakamura. He then fancied another run with the strap in 2009, but unfortunately couldn't defeat the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi. Regardless, Angle was pushed as the man until he could barely wrestle anymore, and when he finally left Impact in 2016, he left as a 6-time world champion and made his way back to WWE. Number 1, the Legion of Doom. The Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, call them what you will, icons wherever they wrestled. They are arguably the greatest tag team of all time, and were standout stars when they joined WWE in 1990. 2 runs as WWE Tag Champions across 2 stints in the Fed were the highlights of LOD's WWE tenure. We don't talk about Road Warrior Heidenreich around these parts. But as popular as LOD were in WWE, they were simply on another level in NWA. Plying their trade across the AWA, GCW, and WCW, the Road Warriors were 2 of the biggest draws in America, with fans losing their minds for their no-nonsense, knockdown, drag-out style, and paying hand over fist to see the Road Warriors absolutely clobber some geeks. Their matches would headline massive super shows over world title bouts, and they were such a commodity that every team and their dog ripped them off. But it wasn't just the States where Hawk and Animal were revered as wrestling icons, as their work in All Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan in the 1980s was also met with huge critical and commercial success. So popular were the Road Warriors in Japan that whenever the 2 were between contracts in America, they would fly over to Japan for a couple of squashes and a Ribera Steakhouse dinner, and would be welcomed like gods.